welcome to Kapowski Reads, and I had some pretty grand plans for this week's vlog. However, I did not anticipate hitting a reading slump. And I've only finished one book in the last 2 weeks. One book that I've really enjoyed. The rest I've just sort of gone, ugh, I don't like this. And I don't know if that's me, if that's the slump, or if that's the book. So who knows? But this week I'm going to just talk to you about the book that I have read and that I have enjoyed, and I also have a little bit of a book haul. I'm not sorry. And it was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is the first book in a fantasy series, and I know, I have said I didn't want to start new series until I'd finished a few more, but I make rules and I break them. I have good intentions, but I started a new series. In my defense, I finished some series and I've given up on some other series as well. So I think I'm probably going to even out okay. And what's one more? It's just one. Yeah, let's not think about the other series that I've probably already started this year. Moving on. This is a YA fantasy book about a woman called Elspeth Spindle, and she basically has a spirit possessing her. The spirit is kind of living in her brain, in her mind, and it's sort of a little bit like a demon. She calls it her nightmare, and the book takes place in a world filled with magic, and the magic system all comes from these cards, which are called Providence cards. And Elspeth meets a band of rebels who are collecting these cards. They're trying to find a cure to rid their world of the dark magic that is plaguing them. However, this mission is basically high treason. So all sorts of exciting things are promised from the blurb. Where to start? I loved this book. I had seen this book likened to Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I kind of get it, because the books are not, I wouldn't say they're overly similar, but they have quite a similar kind of setting of living within the woods, fearing the woods, and the classic sort of fighting for the greater good. But I think that's where the similarities probably end. They're both good books, but different. I thought the writing of this book was beautiful. It was somewhat lyrical, because at the start of every single chapter there was a sort of poem or perhaps an extract of a fairy tale that is referenced quite a lot in this book, and the prose that begins each chapter refers to one of the Providence cards. If the author wanted to write that fairy tale that is referenced in the book, I would happily just read that. So if that could come, I would happily read that while waiting for the second installment in this book. Maybe that could be a thing. I'd be very grateful. And I thought the pacing of this book was perfect. I just felt like it just gradually grew momentum, and towards the end, I think I read the last part of this book in a day, and that was probably the day that I read the most that I've read all month. I just could not. I didn't want to put it down. I loved the characters as well. The only character I didn't like, I wasn't meant to like. He's the baddie. You're allowed to hate the baddie. It's expected. I really liked Elspeth. She had basically been hiding almost all of her life, and so she was very timid, very shy, sort of faded into the background. And I loved the way that she kind of came out of her shell and kind of let her guard down a little bit after sort of learning to trust. And I just thought that character growth was just so beautiful. I loved her relationship with this sort of nightmare that lived in her brain. I thought that was just so, the nightmare was so sassy. It was so sassy and sarcastic, And I just really liked the to and fro that Elspeth had with the voice inside her head. I also really loved, she had a cousin that I'm probably going to butcher her name. I want to say it's Ione, I-O-N-E. That sounds like maybe that could be how it's pronounced. I could be wrong. I love their close relationship. It wasn't so much a relationship of cousins, it really felt like a relationship of sisters. And I really hope that there's more of Ione in book 2. I really would like to see a little bit more of their relationship, especially because they've both gone through some changes. Obviously, this is a new book. I'm not going to be giving any spoilers. I'll just maybe drop some breadcrumbs and be a bit cryptic because I don't want to ruin any enjoyment that could come from this book because I loved it. Elspeth then finds herself staying at the home of the Yu family, who are one of those big families that you read about in books that are just, you know, they love each other, but they are not afraid to just rip each other to shreds and make fun of them and call them out on their bravado. And I just thought that every piece of dialogue with the Yu family was just so fun. I just really like that family. I loved their little home. They lived in a grand home that was in these grounds, and the home was thought to be haunted. And the second that the book mentioned that we were going to a grand home that was thought to be haunted, I just got so excited, and I just really enjoyed that setting. It kind of ticked all of my boxes for what I want from a fantasy. There was romance in this book because of course there was. It was a really slow build romance as well because I was not sure who was going to end up with who. I had my suspicions, I had my hopes, and I didn't get the romance I wanted. It wasn't the pairing I wanted. I'm still kind of holding out for that pairing because who knows what could come, but I think the pairing worked because you really saw their feelings start to grow and the little sort of hand touches and gazes and smirks, and it was just very, very Jane Austen. Loved it. It felt real. I really felt invested in that romance, and there was a little bit of spice because I was informed that I could be heard cackling from the other room, and I cackle when I read a spicy scene in a book because I find it amusing. I felt like this book was just unpredictable. I just felt there were so many twists and so many turns, and I would get a twist and I would just be sort of accepting of that twist and going, right, that's where we are, and then boom, another twist comes. It was like a maze of, I didn't know what was going to happen next. I was kept guessing the whole way, and that ending I did not see coming. It was just glorious. It was just something I didn't even think. It did not cross my mind that it could happen. I loved this. I didn't guess anything that was going to happen in this book. I just felt like it was exciting. It was riveting, and my attention was grabbed, and this book just did not let go of my attention until I finished it. And when I finished it, my stomach is rumbling. I hope that didn't get picked up. I've just eaten lunch. I'm sorry. But yeah, I was held. I was captivated. I also felt like this is a new fantasy book, and it is a world that the author has created of her own, and I feel like the world has been explained in a very comprehensive way. I feel like I understand the world. I understand the rules surrounding the magic. I feel like the risks and the rewards have been explained, and I just feel like I don't have any questions about the world that we're in and the logistics of that world. And I thought that that was just really well done, because sometimes there is that little element of, it's a new world, there are some questions that maybe don't get answered until books 2, 3, 4. But for this one, I feel I got all the answers that I wanted. I have all of the tools I need to enjoy this series. And I genuinely feel like my only downside about this book is that the sequel doesn't exist yet. And I'm not ready to let go. I want more. Maybe if other people read this book and we can all talk about it, then I can just hold out until the next book comes out, because I just thought it was beautiful. And I have been wanting to read a fantasy book that is beautiful and just like soothes my soul. Just an enjoyable read that just takes me on this wild adventure. And I got that. And this book just made me really happy. I'm so happy I read it. I'm still I'm not naive enough to think that this has got me out of my reading slump, but it's kind of helped me get the joy back from reading, which I know sounds really silly because it's only 2 weeks, but I read a lot. Like, reading is like my great joy, and reading hasn't been bringing me joy lately, but this book brought me joy, and I'm very happy about that. So yeah, I'm pleased. So that's my book that I read, but I did say that I had a little bit of a haul, and I did, because I had the dentist this week, and I love the dentist. Where else does one get complimented on their flossing skills? I am not a dancer, so the only flossing I'm good at is with dental floss, and I love going to the dentist. And because I was in town for my dentist, I couldn't resist going to Waterstones, having a little look, but that translated to me spending £30 on this gorgeous edition of Dracula. Is this my 5th edition of Dracula? Yes. Will I be buying more editions of Dracula in the future? Also yes. But I'd never seen this one before, and it's illustrated as well. And I don't have any illustrated, I don't think I have any, no I don't. I have no illustrated copies of Dracula. So I think that I can totally justify this because I wanted it. I am going to be doing a read along for Dracula over the next 2 weeks over on Instagram with Amy, who was one of the organisers of the mixtape-a-thon back in August? September? What are months? It was the autumn one, whenever that was. And it's over on Instagram with a bunch of pals, and it's just going to be really fun. So I justified it by saying, oh, well, a new copy for that. Even though I have my paperback, my paperback's usually the one I read, I cannot resist a gorgeous Dracula. And look at the hand papers. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm so excited about this. It's so pretty, and it's got little bats on it. I mean, there was no way I was resisting this. So I didn't. I also bought a book when I was through at House of Brewer at the Cairngorms, which was just a non-fiction, A River Runs Through Me by Andrew Douglas Home. And this is non-fiction about fishing. And that's not something I would normally pick up. But this book is about fishing in the River Tweed. And the River Tweed actually runs through my hometown of Peebles, and I just really thought that that sounded like something I wanted to read. I'm quite interested in reading a book that includes a river that I actually have fond memories of. I didn't fish in the river. This book actually features a part in the map where it mentions like here, which is Needpeth and the Ducats, and that's actually part where when I was a teenager we used to just jump off of rocks into the river, which is stupid and people should not do that because there are currents, and we were idiots. But I have fond memories of being an idiot, so I thought it'd be quite nice to at some point read a book that kind of maybe gives me a little bit of nostalgia for back home. I will be going back home soon, so maybe I'll read it there. Those are the 2 books that I bought, but I did receive 3 more books because my friends and I send each other books through the post. So I got these 3 from my friend Connie. I actually loaned Duck Feet by Eli Percy because I love this book, and if my friends want to read this, I will loan them it because I want everybody to read this book because it's glorious. So this is just finding its way back home. And my friend actually got 2 copies of Sadie Called the Police by Kirkland Ciccone and asked me if I would like a copy, and yes, I'd very much like a copy. So that is new book for me, and a loan of Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I have heard nothing but amazing things about this book, and I don't know when I'm going to get to it. I hope I will get to it. I probably won't get to it this month, but I will get to it as soon as I can, and I'm very, very excited to read this. So yeah, that was my week. It started off a little bit lackluster really, but I managed to get an amazing book read, and I strongly think that One Dark Window has just sashayed its way into my top 10 of 2022. I've not done the maths, but I'm feeling pretty confident that it's there. I'd love to know anything that you've been reading and enjoying. Hopefully next week is a little better. Who knows? Hopefully I find another book that I enjoy. Maybe two. And I will let you know. Thank you for watching. Bye!